It's all interesting making video content, but this is a bit different, I guess. I wasn't sure if I was going to go public, and then I started overthinking, and anyway, here I am. This episode, if you like, is largely going to be an update video, so some technical stuff, some beautiful B-roll. I'll try and mix some nice music in to make it a pleasurable experience for you. So we're talking some details, some plants, some hardscaping techniques that I've been employing, some updates on some fish, and of course the cichlid tank as well. But then, yeah, story time if you're still here for that. Yeah, I've got some interesting news for you. Good, so what have I done so far in the last couple of weeks since the last video on this Oase HighLine 400? Many of you will know this tank by now. Some of you have been very kind about it and telling me it's your favourite scape I've ever done. It is definitely getting there for me. I think it's no coincidence that it's also the scape that I've had running for almost the longest as well. I think in this kind of format with this hardscape, it's been running for at least 2 years with the hardscape as it is, but the plants have changed. But the overall concept of only using a few main species of plants, so we've got the Echindorus family, Crypt family and Anubias family, so just 3 main groups of plants, allowing them all to mature, grow into each other. There's various species, there's like 5 different species of Crypts, probably 4 or 5 Anubias, and again 4 or 5 Echindorus. But they all kind of merge into each other to look quite natural, I think. And as you allow the aquascapes to mature over the months, you get to iterate the process and refine it, by using techniques like leaf removal, various leaves at different stages of their development. You get to remove species altogether. Actually removed some hardscape recently, some wood, just to allow the plants some more space. It is definitely becoming my favourite aquascape that I've ever created so far in my 20 years of scaping. It is genuinely a joy to live with and relatively straightforward to maintain. I have done a deep dive maintenance video on this before. Weekly, big water changes, probably 50 to 70% water change, clean the filters, pre-filters, clean the glass. It's just an incredibly high impact aquarium, but not, it's a balance between being kind of gaudy, really colourful, high impact, and being subtle and kind of more natural vibes. If you look at something, I spend a lot more time looking at tanks like Thai treatments, chaotic, wild mix of plant species. I guess I like to be a bit more refined artistically, I don't know. But yeah, what actually have I done since the last video? You may notice, some of you, this probably looks quite fresh, this foreground cosmetic substrate here. We've got a mixture of kind of white grey sandy gravel and then some finer pebbles. I think it's a mix of Wio and Hugo Kamishi products, all from Aquarium Gardens. So yeah, I did a fresh layer. I think it looks really nice. The white looks a little bit too white at the moment, it looks a bit too bleached, but as it gets on a biofilm and a coating of algae, it will look more natural. And a similar story with the small pebbles. They're all quite sterile at the moment. They'll get this like natural patina, this natural coating of natural looking gravel, natural looking algae, which I actually like. I don't like it to look too sterile. But the big, one of the big differences in the planting is that I've actually removed a hefty amount of Anubias Petite. I put a bunch in my cichlid tank, which I'll show you later, and also quite a bit in here as well in the Escapeline 60, which we'll talk about in more detail in a minute. But I love it. It's exposed all this wood here, and I really love the texture. I love this gnarled effect with this crevice, the shadowing. You know, I think it's really important to have some shadowing in your aquascape, and I think this is really draws your eye into the centre where the shadow is, almost like a black hole sucking in, sucking in the light. So yeah, it's been good to refine the composition and really exploit this beautiful piece of wood here. Probably the most impactful part of the scape are the red Echindorus here, and actually now quite a significant proportion of that background plant is Cryptocoryne usteriana, which is this kind of crinkled effect, red and green leaf form. Really effective, I think, mixed with the Echindorus. The Echindorus are a mix of red flame and red diamond and Ozelot Green. Yeah. There was some Horminii red in there, but that's all died off. I think it needed more light than what I was giving it. And then we have this mix of crypts, which some of them are reaching the surface almost now. And this is the crypt undulatus red, which I've never seen grow so tall actually. So that's really cool. And then there's some other crypts in here. I think that's Petite. I think there's a wendtii. It's all mixed up, so it looks natural. But the real kind of theme on the edges of the scape are this browny orange green effect. We have this bright, rich green of the Anubias, and then with the backdrop of the interesting reds. It's really quite a colourful scape. I've actually got little snippets of blue from the lamp eyes, which I think adds an important part of the blue, as well as the bluebee tetras, of course, the Hyphesobricon waddii. But I do really love the African lamp eyes there. A real mix of fish here. We've got South America represented with the tetras, got some gobies here from Indonesia, and then we've got the lamp eyes from Africa, of course. And a mix of plants, you know, Anubias is African, and then we've got crypts from Southeast Asia, and then Echindorus from South America as well. So the real cosmopolitan kind of scape, I guess you could call it. Yeah, I love it, and I'm just going to keep it rolling. Really tempted actually to do something different with the background now. So I was going to ask you guys a question. What do you think? I really want to keep the Anubias because I think it's so lush and healthy, and I just love the way it's growing. And I love the crypts, similar reason. It's just they just seem to suit the thing perfectly. But I think we could really change the whole dynamic of the scape by changing out the Echindorus and the crypts in the background for something else, and maybe even swapping some fish around. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you had to get rid of the swords, the red swords, and imagine that completely black at the background. Yeah, what background plant would you put in there? And if you could change the fish, what would you do? So I'm thinking the most amazing background of Cyperus healthferrae to match the texture of the crypts. These are brown, of course. The Cyperus is very bright green, but I think it would suit the Anubias. I just think that a large density of it, a large kind of luxury portion of it all over the background would absolutely, or something like a Blixa or Bertii or Crypt or Vallis nana or Eliocharis montidavensis. Something tall, thin, spiky, maybe even Vallis nereus spiralis tiger. So let me know in the comments, what should we replace the Amazon swords with? So And fish, what if you had to replace the fish, what would you swap out and what would you put in there? Okay, moving on to the Escapeline 60. The most obvious news I could probably tell you is that we've got almost all of the orange lemon tetras from the HighLine 400 in the Escapeline 60. There is one on his own in there hanging around with the other lemon tetras. So ideally I need to get him out. It took me about an hour to get these guys out, hunted them individually. So yeah, the Escapeline 60 is looking good. One of the more recent videos I showed you how we replaced this foreground here. And that got rid of all that algae that was building up, the staghorn algae. Happy to report minimal staghorn algae in here now. Really loaded up this central kind of mass area here with different plants. A lot of Anubias Petite spare from the HighLine 400. There's some Bucophalandra as well from this tank, which was kind of growing hidden away, so I'll put it in here on show. So yeah, this kind of focal point area here is looking quite nice. I like the mixture of textures. We've got like the Anubias Petite, Bucophalandra red, the Cryptocoryne, the Echindorus reni, Myriaphyllum matagrescensa, Java moss, Marsolea hirsuta, and Myriaphyllum guyana. And also planted a load of different sprigs of individual portions of the Uzelot Green, and also planted that into the sand, so just to create a more complex texture down there. Also deliberately removed a load of the moss just to keep these kind of really thin layers growing against the wood there, which I think looks really natural. Okay, back in the room. So, covered the HighLine 400 and what we can hope for the future with a new background plant. Let me know what you want in there. And then the Escapeline 60, big news. Got some orange lemon tetras in here, and all the plants are doing really well. One of the purposes behind this escape was actually to create content for Tropica plant profiles, so I will more than likely be getting footage of B-roll of all of the plants in the next few weeks for some plant profiles for Tropica, and yeah, keep growing it on. I think it's a really nice escape. I wasn't going to put fish in here because I was going to be keep turning it over frequently for new content. But I'm just going to keep this one going for now. I am a bit of a fan now of keeping the longer term escapes. I do have an empty tank behind the camera. That's going to go down to roots and shoots on Saturday. Wow, what day is it today? Thursday. I'm going to London later today to see my beautiful wife, and then I'm going to back down again to London on Saturday morning for the Roots and Shoots Make a Splash event, where I'll be doing a workshop. Tice Treatment's doing a workshop. Waterman Museum are doing a talk on corals. There's pond dipping, I think. Yeah, I'll leave details in the description. But that's 2 days time. The shrimp are looking beautiful in here. I think they are breeding. I did see a baby in here the other day. But yeah, it's a beautiful little tank. So I've got an empty tank that I'm scoping, so I've got 2 of these. But I do want to do much more scaping, much more creating, and that's why I wasn't going to add fish, but I think I'll keep this sort of as a medium term. This is long term, medium term, and then I have a short term aquarium, which will be the other Escapeline, and then I will set that up just for content, like tutorials and stuff. So yeah, if you've got any ideas about what type of escapes you want me to set up, let me know. Biotopes, different planted tank styles, maybe, I don't know, it's up to you guys. Just let me know in the comments. I really do read all the comments, even if I don't reply. Yeah, so the Marsolea hirsuta is growing really well. Quite a lot of snails in here, which are a bit of a pest. So I am removing quite a few of those every week. But on the whole, it's going really well. The background plants are weed. You can just literally pull out handfuls every other day or so. I will replace that with something more long term. So yeah, that's a good point. What would you replace this Myriophyllum with? It is quite chaotic looking now, it's quite ugly. I don't know if I should just remove it all and replant the healthiest pieces. I do like the Marcellea, the way it still produces some like these 4-leaf clovers. Looks like they've not quite adapted to underwater. So another big news, I am going to be moving the cichlid tank over to the other side of the room. So at the moment, this is in my dining room area where I am sitting, and then the cichlid tank is behind the camera. We've moved office space, so now it makes sense to use the HighLine 300, aka the cichlid tank, as a room divider alongside Emma to kind of give her a barrier and her desk from the other living space. I'll just give you a brief panning shot of what that looks like. So I'll be moving that, and I need some help with that because it's really heavy, so I'll have to empty as much water, all the hardscape. I'll probably slide it on towels with the fish in there and a small amount of water in the bottom, and then rescape it on the other side. But the exciting thing is I am going to rescape it with the excess Anubias, plus I'll get some more Anubias, and I'm going to put CO2 in it. Just not huge amounts of CO2 because they don't like a low pH, the fish, but enough to give that Anubias some fighting chance of growth. So yeah, I'll give that a try to see if we can have a successful planted cichlid tank. And I will be probably thinning out the population soon somehow. So if there's anyone serious that wants to come and collect some really high quality Echindorus, if they're a serious cichlid keeper, let me know, and maybe we can arrange a visit. Even better if you've got beautiful aquariums that you want to show off, maybe we can do a video together or something. So yeah, I'm going to move that cichlid tank. I was going to, if you remember from the other video, potentially going to put the cichlids in here and then make the current cichlid tank into a planted tank, but I'm keeping this going. I love it so much. I don't know how much I've got left on the timer. Check because we're going to the serious bit now. It's all interesting making video content, but this is a bit different, I guess. I wasn't sure if I was going to go public, and then I started overthinking, and anyway, here I am. I've been diagnosed with ADHD about a year ago, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about it a bit, I guess. I guess there may be some of you out there with it, maybe even undiagnosed like I was for 46 years, and wondered why you didn't fit in so much into, you know, usual society. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that you're not alone, and I know everyone's got their own stories and stuff, but I thought if I'd share a little bit of my own, it might make it easier, hopefully, for some others out there. So yeah, I always kind of knew I was a bit different at school, fidgeted a lot, interrupted a lot, had trouble focusing on anything I wasn't absolutely fascinated by. But anything that I was interested in, I was obsessed with, and I just went hyper-focus, all in on that. And that's what happened with aquascaping. I didn't know it at the time I had ADHD, but I definitely knew I was obsessed with aquascaping. So I guess that was one of the benefits of the ADHD. We could talk about the benefits, and maybe some of the more challenging things about it. But yeah, one of the benefits, just to hit the ground running with a positive, it gave me hyper focus on something I fell in love with, and in my view brings a lot of joy. It brings a lot of joy to me and a lot of joy to other people, so I'm so grateful to have found aquascaping, and I'm grateful for my ADHD for enabling me to make a career out of aquascaping, because I do believe one of the big parts of my success in inverted commas is largely down to some of the characteristics that ADHD have enabled for me. So yeah, I just thought I'd have a ramble, no structure to this monologue. But yeah, I was a naughty kid. I actually got expelled from boarding school. I engaged in a lot of risk-taking behaviour. I drank a lot of alcohol and did a lot of partying. Did a lot of got into like the dance music scene and everything that entails. And got involved with what some people might call the wrong crowd, I guess, to some degree. And life was taking some interesting directions, and I was making some less than wise choices, I guess. I got to the point where I was taking so many risks and engaging in so much behaviour that was starting to cause negative effects to other people. I decided to kind of straighten myself out, and metaphorically, and give myself a kick up the arse, and decided to join the military. So even though I came from a military background, I went to a military boarding school and kind of rebelled against all of that. I did know it could serve a purpose and straighten me out and teach me some discipline and structure, which I clearly lacked. Now I realise down in part down to the undiagnosed ADHD and a lot of the symptoms that brought about. So joined the RAF, and then to straighten myself out, did really well. No surprise, I knew how the system worked because I went to military boarding school, so I knew how to kind of do all of the military bullshit, marching, how to shoot a weapon, how to iron your kit, do all that good stuff. Doesn't teach you any emotional intelligence though, which is kind of what you need sometimes in life more. Anyway, so I did okay in the Air Force, but because I was one of the negative connotation, one of the symptoms or one of the characteristics of ADHD is that you have low dopamine, naturally low dopamine levels, and consequently you're seeking dopamine, dopamine seeking activity. So you're craving different high risk behaviours, sometimes high risk activities. But in my case, I was very into sport, and that was great. I was captain of the running team, and I was fairly good at a lot of different sports. But all the while, I wasn't naturally gifted at anything in the Air Force, and I wasn't super motivated by anything. I found it all quite boring. So I was doing things like volunteering for bomb disposal just to have a bit of extra, excitement, if you like, in a controlled way. Got onto a bomb disposal tour in Afghanistan, and long story short, got hit in a roadside bomb, luckily didn't get hurt physically, but the consequences of the roadside bomb led to me having some PTSD-like symptoms, and that all simultaneously happening with the undiagnosed ADHD and all of that entails living as a child and an adult without official support. Oh God, the timer's going, I think. I need to wrap it up there in a minute. I don't like to go over half an hour. Volunteered and then realised, long story short, the RAF wasn't for me, but aquascaping was. Absolutely love aquascaping. I was doing it as a side hustle whilst I was in the Air Force. I was writing for magazines, doing photography, doing a few workshops by this point in like on weekends. I was still working full time in the Air Force, but was enjoying, you know, working as a freelance aquascaper to an extent. It was getting to the point where I knew if I took the leap, you know, away from the Air Force, I could do aquascaping full time. And one of the other benefits of ADHD is that you're not afraid of risk, and you're not afraid to take, you know, you're not afraid to take big risks. And so I did. I just thought, simultaneously I was going through divorce with my first wife, and all around this time I was just like, bring on the challenges. So I applied to the Tropical Marine Centre in London, TMC, and I had a job with those guys for a few months, which was really helpful, really beneficial, really good stepping stone into the civilian world. And that is, you know, a lot of those life-changing kind of choices were large, you know, some of those were enabled by the ADHD, but now I've been diagnosed, I know what the most important things in life are now, you know, and that's the people you love, loving yourself. I guess just living in the here and now, not being fearful of the future or regretful of the past. They don't exist. Just be grateful for what you've got. If you're watching this, then you're in a privileged position to start with. So just start with being grateful. I'll leave it there because it's up to the 30 minutes, I'm sure. Alright, thanks for watching. Take care. Cheerio.